Okay, so this is episode 12 of A Minute with Mud. Mud Shattered Operating System Part 5. Should be the last one, I hope. Because today I'm emotional as F. Because of yesterday's video and everything that comes with it. So I decided to do this one here at the Red Raven coffee shop, and they left this on the board up here, so if you can get a good look at that, it's a support group and greatest motherfucking generation, and I missed the group last week. Hopefully I can make it this week. And so I guess last night I decided to write down this stuff, and so ending with that last video and my junkie ex, it reminded me of a song by Tom MacDonald called This House, where he says in there, I'm conditioned for all this abuse. And I have been conditioned for all this abuse. Somehow. I've been through enough of it to know better. Okay, so back this up. I just wrote it down, so I'm both thankful and forgiven. I've both thanked and forgiven my parents, especially my mother, for giving me the strength I have today. My mom's like a mother bear to me, and I remember when she was in Alaska, she stepped out of the car to go and have a picture with a grizzly bear. She was 4 or 5 feet away from a giant ass grizzly bear. Fearless. I love her. She's been real tough on me, but in fact, my grandpa, her dad, once had a black bear as a pet, and the story goes that I heard is that he won it in a card game. I really don't know the true story, but and that the Native Americans had traded it for gasoline before that. And also my dad's dad had a pet crow or a raven at the age of 12, and I seen the picture, and the bird was almost as tall as he was. I grew up with raccoons, foxes. My dad had a wolf. I remember a wolf, and my dog Moose was a Chihuahua, and there's old pictures of those two playing, which is pretty neat. The farm had a lot of animals on it. There was deer on the farm, a baby deer, a cow. I think Betsy was her name. Vaguely remember drinking the cow's milk, which was more like cream than anything, like fat cream. They had pigs. My aunt had a potbelly pig that she had rescued. Horses, goats, geese, chickens, dogs. Dogs named Sam. For some reason, they always named the dog Sam. Cats. And my aunt's husband even had a bunch of emus at one time, which was pretty cool. So I'm no strangers to animals or pets. When I had our house, we had frogs, iguana. Had an iguana and a hedgehog in the same cage. They never really bothered each other. And I remember we bought a gecko, one of the Geico geckos, and I couldn't name it. I just couldn't name it because it was so exotic, and I never gave it a name. When we cleaned the cage, it would run up around the walls and the roofs, so it's hard to catch. But sadly, he got cold and died because it was in North Dakota, and the temperature got down to like 40, and he started to die, so that was sad. Had like hamsters and guinea pigs. Hedgehogs were fun though, pygmy hedgehogs. Okay, so to clarify the video, I went to Shangri-La right after my 26 days in jail after that first domestic. When I got clean, when my body got clean and I was healthy. You know, like I mentioned, I'd gone back to 180 pounds, just totally healthy. I didn't know how or why that happened until I researched the gut and the biome and 90% bacteria and 10% human cells that we are. So at that Shangri-La in 2016, it's when I met Mike Love, Sam, and Keith of Mike Love band, and the first time. And then I mentioned to him, I had a discussion with him that I was going to Hawaii, and I don't think he really actually believed me. But when I went to Hawaii for the 30 days homeless there, I met him in the bar with, you know, he's playing barefoot just by himself. There's like 8 people dancing, and we had a little discussion. He asked me if I had a website up, but it was too soon, and I have the websites, but I'm not quite capable just yet to start building those pretty soon. Then, you know, I made it back to Hood River, kissed the ground, thankful that I was back on the mainland because it felt so suffocated and on an island that was so small. And then I made it back to Valley City, excited, super excited to see Oliver being, after he was born, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks after he was born. And for the first time, and I did, and her and I were pretty happy back then. We were so happy that we both survived our suicidal ideation, and he made it out alive, and at 8 pounds exactly, which that 8 number seems to haunt me a lot. And I remember her mother just had to mention that there was coke in town right when I first saw the kid. She's like, yeah, there's coke in town, and that's just like, it's ruined, almost ruined the vibe, almost. But we were just too happy to have made it so far. After that, we were happy for a while, mostly, and until after a few months of her staying clean, because she wanted to have clean breast milk for Oliver, so she wasn't doing anything either. We both weren't. I mean, weed, I think. But then she started taking Adderall again, and Adderall entered the picture, which is devastating. It's a shit drug. The next spring, after that, in April, I went and visited my father for the first time after over 8 years, and to make peace with my past there, and see Tooele, Utah, where he was living he lost his houses, and he was living in an old schoolhouse for the blind, like a one-room school thing. So the doors had school doors on it. It was pretty interesting. That's when I introduced CBD for their dog, and 2 days after the CBD treatments, she was running around and everything, and my dad, I remember being so surprised because she could get into the car by herself, and he was really surprised. And about a week later, he's running around, or she was running around just playing. Jen was her name, I think. Jen, or Dee was her name. So that was kind of neat. And then I had met up with my stepbrother, who was married and had his own place, dealing with issues, mostly gut issues, is my opinion. But either way, it was like meeting him for the very first time, and we always fight when we were young, but he filled me in on some of my ex-wife's deceptions and old friends and what happened to them. But mainly the deception was she had told me that she found Spleen, our dog. He was like part Shar-Pei, part Golden Lab. He was an awesome dog, and I named him Spleen. We barely got to keep him, but her dad said that I needed a dog, so we got to keep him. And her dad was a different kind of character as well. He's a very amazing artist, doing stuff out of junk and stucco, and he taught me sculpting a little bit with styrofoam, he would do styrofoam and stuccos and colors and whatever else. The van had all kinds of different things on it. I guess he had helped start the Rainbow Family Gathering back in the day. He'd done a whole bunch of acid, like 30 hits acid, and climbed a mountain and found God. And he was always signed all of his art as us, which correlates with the law of one and how Ra being channeled and different channelers speak of, like Abraham Hicks, and how it's just us and we. So, and he always said he was immortal and things like that, but he was kind of a fanatic Mormon a little bit. Still an amazing guy. I'm super grateful to have been a part of that family for a while, and that he took me in. He just had me, he took me in, I was running away from my dad's place because I was emancipated and they wanted me on house arrest. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. So I was gonna go off, kill myself, and he had me stay in the backyard where in a tent. I had a bed. It was a giant tent. I had a bed, a dresser, everything in it, and the backyard was like a maze. There was all kinds of different supplies and stuff. There was a huge chessboard made out of car pieces that I would always play chess with people and have to bribe people to play with me with weed. Tell them I'd give them weed if they won or beat me, because I was pretty good at it, I guess. And then also another chess story was when this other homeless guy and we went to this old man's house and we were drinking watered down vodka, and all night long he had this board that he made in high school, and all night long he was playing me and I kept on beating him and he just couldn't believe it. And eventually I started seeing doubles. I was seeing double pieces. I was like, man, I was gonna just lose on purpose, but then I was like, no, after a while I was like, I'm done. And he had me sign the back of his board. There was only a few signatures on it, and he said, and this guy's like 50 some years old, and he said that anyone who beats him has to sign the back of his board. So I reluctantly agreed, and I just had my signature, which back then was safe in a place where no one goes, Mud, and that was that. Also, on the name of Mud, I stopped using that name as much. So now when I hear somebody call me Mud, I'm like, oh shit, you know. One of my friends in recovery at the Lighthouse Church, he remembers me from Valley City back in the day when I first woke up out of my coma. He's an awesome dude. He's running marathons and he's been sober for a long time. Okay, so. But yeah, she had told me that he was running around on the street, but then I learned that he actually stole them from a yard. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But when I was there, I had helped my dad a little bit at the RV shop where he worked. He's been a mechanic for like 40 years, and he owned him and his partner bought the place, and so up there. But then I also got a job doing frying donuts at midnight for morning, and that was kind of interesting. We would listen to some music and stuff, and the guys that I worked with were pretty interesting. But then I was feeling pretty bad about making donuts that are killing people, and the guy, he woke me up a little bit by saying, well, you have to understand that it's their choice. It's their choice to come here and purchase them. So that made it feel a little better, but it still didn't fix it. So I was like, well, what about healthy donuts? And I looked up healthy donuts and baking them, and there's all kinds of recipes. There's also, on the Shark Tank, I guess, got funded for protein donuts where you can purchase them. So that's a whole nother idea. I'll share that in a different video after all these, of healthy donuts, or a healthy snack line called Good Yums that I want to do, peer supportive based and characters, and I made a prototype of it and everything. Okay, so I also agreed to ask Junkie to marry me because I thought, in hindsight, I thought that it would calm her nerves about me leaving and maybe gain custody of Oliver so that I could help keep him safe. Happy family fantasy like stuff. And when I returned, and then, the whole marriage proposal and all that, Adderall, I had when I returned back to North Dakota and we had an argument, she told me to just leave. So when I took my stuff and was leaving, I had had enough. I was just going to leave. She told me to wait and stay, and that she had some things to tell me, but that she wanted us both to be naked because that prevents physical. I didn't know at the time. I was like, well, okay, but that prevents physical altercations. So if you look that up, it's like if two naked people aren't going to get in a physical battle, in a sense. So I guess she knew she had a lot to tell me. So I understood that, and then I braced myself for the worst, thinking that maybe she had aborted my child or something while I was gone. But it wasn't that. It wasn't that bad. It was pretty bad, but anyway, it floored my heart. Sincerely floored my heart, the confessions that she made. And like any covert narcissist would do to anybody if they told them everything that they had been doing. That sort of reminded me of how, like, after that domestic with my junkie ex, she got a letter from my ex-wife, because my sister and family are still in contact, old friends are still in contact with her, and she said to my ex that I haven't spoken with him in over 10 years, or 8 years or something like that. 8 years, she said, but it would have been over 10, and that he's dangerous, and especially when you have kids and all this. I hate him. I can't wait till he dies. I can't wait till he kills himself. I hate him 1,000 times over. So all of this time, she went with my old best friend, had a kid, lived a life, and still hates me. And my dad was just like, now you know how it feels. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help me. So that's when I realized that let love let it go. Let love let it go. So I just loved through it, and that was hard to deal with too, especially since the junkie had lied about it and didn't tell me until she was upset. Then she had to tell me something that hurt me. I don't understand how all that shit works. I mean, I've done a lot of research on it, but it's not healthy for people dealing with narcissistic abuse and abuse of any kind to study on all the methods of the abuse. It's more healthy to look into the healing of the abuse and clearing it. So that's kind of what this is all about too. Just listen to a Haley song called "You Should Be Sorry" and "Graveyard." Those ones that really, I feel it. So when I was doing community service at the recycling center in Valley City for that domestic, I had found some funeral pamphlets from my grandpa, and he had died like 9 years ago, and I had thought about him earlier that day before I found the pamphlets, and I was like, man, what do I do? So I kind of asked him, or asked benevolent spirits, what do I do about this? And they told me to record it, to record her confession. So I orchestrated a setup to where I had recorded them. When she found out, it was horrible after that, but I had the evidence because I wanted to protect the kids, and otherwise I would have left a long time ago. I couldn't stand what was going on there. I had no warning of how evil and wrong some of the people that I've been with have been, and I had good intentions in the beginning, and after so much abuse, passive aggressive, I snap. I can't handle it, kind of thing. So anyway, I asked Spirit what to do, and I got to record the confessions, and so I did. And later, I gave her a free night out. I was going to babysit, and I said, go out, have fun. I had just done some meth with somebody because it was an off and on thing, and this trap house with this wicked people. Hurt people, more so. And she came back, IMS, said she had bought some, used it, didn't bring any back to share with me. And I don't know what exactly went down that night, but I'm pretty sure she had some kind of, group orgy, or I don't know what happened, but it was not good. And when I saw her at Harmony Park last year, I think, she's like, well, what did you expect to happen? And that's not on me. I gave her a chance to prove herself, and it didn't happen. Especially with being a mother like that. Just not healthy. I disagree. So that was the third, fourth, or fifth deal breaker in a row. I keep on taking people back. I kept on taking them back and trusting that they would do the right thing again and again and again. And I'm done doing that. I'm cutting it off. You know, they have that saying where, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And it's taken a lot of pain to learn those lessons. So most everything between us after that was hostile until I left a few months later, because I wanted to stay for Oliver's birthday, and I just left after that. And that was December 10th when I left in 2018. And then I was homeless for the week, and then I went to the peer support specialist training. I'm just off and on. I did a lot of snow shoveling, day labor, things like that. I got through it. And then back in Utah, I'd helped a neighbor who had, back when I was there in that April 8, 2018, helped a neighbor, and like so many others that I've met, turned to drinking after the loss of his wife. And I've met a lot of people who've done that. It's sad. And I helped him paint his house, and ended up seeing Xavier Rudd live, which his YouTube's videos, I always liked him, but YouTube videos do no justice to his live shows. It was amazing. Electronic didgeridoos. And during that concert, it was Salt Lake City. And Salt Lake City, people are a little bit conceited in a way. Everybody's kind of social anxiety, like, who are you? Are you Mormon or are you not? There's just so many differences, and it's a big city, so that's big cities. And 2 songs into it, everybody was like connected. I could feel it, I could tell. Everybody was having fun, even if they didn't know each other. It was amazing. And at the end, he's playing a couple songs and people were crying and stuff. And I have some videos, but people would start crying. I almost did. I had to walk out for a minute because I was getting a little emotional. But I remember on one of the videos, somebody said, "Oh, are you crying?" And he's like, "Come over here, everybody get over here, give this guy a hug." So it was really cool to see that shift of energy from completely disconnected to all in one. I love that stuff. And I got to see Mike Love again. Met up with him, and I was drinking. I had drank that night, but I have a video where he says hello to Oliver, says that he loves Oliver, because we were going to bring Oliver to Project Earth once, but we had separated and everything. And also with my stepmother, I used to call her my step bitch because things were pretty rough between us, but I learned about her really dark Mormon childhood, and finally we buried the hatchet. After all these years, we buried the hatchet and got over our disagreements from last times. And the last time I saw Oliver was during the peer support training in the apartment room at the Hilton that the state provided, and I remember him saying, I did it. And just out of the blue, he wasn't even doing anything. We were just walking through the hallway, and he's like, I did it. And I could instantly sense that he was like, I got you to hear. I got Dustin, I got you to hear, telling me that in a way, because the peer support specialist training is like 50 years of all 12-step programs in one, and just like amazing. When you're able to help somebody, it's basically just being a friend, but a real one and a supportive one. So if you ever hear about peer support training, or it's in your area, or you'd like to help people, I highly recommend it. So it was kind of like his mission to guide me to where I was, and my gratitude far outweighs the pains for anything that I felt the whole time with Junkie and her kids. And I pray for her and her kids often. I do. I've still got pain, still got hurt. Regardless, I have to let all of that go. And so, yeah, I was vegan for a couple years with my ex-wife off and on, but now I only do fish and farm-raised eggs very rarely, cheese and farm-raised eggs very rarely, very rarely. I mostly eat a healthy diet. And then afterwards, when I was in Fingala on 420 in 2019, when I went back to visit that area, which was a death week, it was such a shadow working week, I could not believe it. I got punched for no reason because they had stolen some shit, and somebody came in and put the heat on them, but they were like, was it you? And I'm like, dude, I was it. So, like, he punched me, and I, grabbed him, and I was like, dude, what the hell? I don't even know your name. What's going on here? And he softened right up. He actually came back and wanted to shake my hand and apologize. So, my old frenemies were like, I hate you and stuff like that. I mean, I felt really bad for them, but I tried. I had done the meth with them in hopes of being purely supportive, which is not a good idea. Drinking with somebody and acting like you're going to help them stop drinking or doing anything, the same thing with them, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. So I learned that lesson. And then they left me there for a few days because they had to skip town. And thankfully my other friend, which I'll get into in a minute here, saved me. She came and got me. And also, like, gossip is black magic, no matter how you look at it. And I owned up to everything I usually do, like it or not, love it or leave it. I own up to it because I did that thing. And if I want to grow and I want to learn, I want to achieve higher vibes and be a better person, I've got to get the wisdom, and I've got to clear the slate, clean slate. By 8 Turn, it's a good song, which I found recently. So when I was 16, I think, and my ex was 14 or 15 or 17, it was a couple years difference, and I remember she was crying, and just for like no reason, I don't understand why she was crying. She was like, hold me, take me, hold me. In hindsight, I could see that, and just like protect her, to show her that it's okay, that I've got her back, but I didn't know what was going on, so eventually I just punched her in the stomach. And I was like, ah! And I went back into the house, and I remember putting my hand on the door, and I had a flashback of a Halloween movie where somebody stabbed a pencil through their hand. And because I'd been, I'd get scared of certain things. My mom always watched emergency ER shows, and I was traumatized just by watching all this shit back in the 80s, But so I came back and I was like, you want to see some shit? And I put my hand on the table, and I had found a switchblade knife, and then I just stabbed myself right through my hand, and then the endorphins and all that. I never went to the hospital. I had one beer that day, and I just let it heal. It puffed up, it hurt like hell. 1 drop of blood came out the other side, but all my life I get to see this scar. I don't know if you can see it there, but right there, where I'd stabbed myself for doing something that I had hated my father for doing and never wanted to do. And then later on, after my coma, she had told me that she tasted my blood, which is, I'm not even going to touch that. I don't understand why certain people can push people to their breaking points and then act like they're innocent for it. Whether you're hurting somebody or not, that's not right. That's you being the instigator and everything. So then I grew up in a hostile environment. There's no excuses for any of the wrongs that I've done, but I'm doing my best to break these generational curses and everything else too, to just do my best to clear this and start working on healthy things. Okay, so this will be my last, I think that's just a clarifier. That's right, I'm going to do this one as a clarifier because I have one more to make on once I went homeless in the past year and a half of the growth, and be more focused on the growth and the individuals that I had met during my polyamorous or just love kind of universal. I called it just universal love, which I can't do. I can't do that. I can't have multiple people that I'm connected with in that way, in an intimate kind of way. So, anyway, thank you for listening, and hopefully I can find a few more links and share some stuff about that. Doing this for me, so peace, love, blessings to anyone. Again, greatest motherfucking generation. I guess they say that Xenials is this small little 7-year group from 77 to 93, where they're into. It's when everything kind of shifted, I guess. They were born in that area, and I was born in '80s, so there's a song it's about John Lennon from a group around here. I can't remember the name of them, but they talked about how they were born right when John Lennon died, and that's sort of a month after I was born is when he died. So sad news, but motivational. Peace, love, blessings. Take care of yourselves and take care of others. And I'll see you on episode 13. This is episode 12. I'll see you on episode 13 of A Minute with Mud. They're about to start the music here, so take care. My love.